Hi, welcome to today's instalment in my series counting down to the anniversary of the execution of Queen Anne Boleyn on the 19th of May. I started on the 24th of April, so you can go back and watch each video in chronological order because they do, count down. They show the events that led up to her execution, and I did my book, The Fall of Anne Boleyn, a countdown, which has inspired these videos because I just wanted everyone to see just how quickly events moved, for the Queen, against the Queen. It was all incredibly fast. Okay, sorry if I'm out of breath. I've just been running around the house after a cat with a cricket. So there you go. Today, on this day in 1536, Thursday, the 18th of May, this was the day that was actually chosen for Queen Anne Boleyn to die. It was the date set for her to be burned or beheaded as shall please the king. So Anne actually spent the night of the 17th/18th praying with her almoner and preparing for her death, while carpenters worked on a brand new scaffold. The king, in his mercy, had decided that Anne Boleyn should be beheaded rather than burned, and that she should be beheaded by sword. He'd ordered for the famous executioner of Calais, or Saint-Omer, to be called for and to come over to London to behead her in the French way, by sword. At dawn that day, the 18th, her friend Archbishop Thomas Cranmer arrived to hear her final confession and to help her prepare for her forthcoming execution and to celebrate Mass with her. Now, Anne took this opportunity of celebrating the Mass with the Archbishop to swear her innocence in front of witnesses. She asked for her jailer and a man who was writing daily reports on her behaviour and what she said to Thomas Cromwell, Sir William Kingston, Constable of the Tower of London, to be present while she took the sacrament. She took the sacrament and she swore her innocence twice on it, before and after receiving the body of Christ. Sir William Kingston passed on what happened, a report of what happened, what Anne Boleyn said, onto Cromwell as Anne wanted. But of course it made absolutely no difference. Anne then made arrangements for alms, and by that I mean money, charitable money, to be distributed. This was money that King Henry VIII gave, sent to her, didn't give her personally, but sent to her for her to give. And then she went back to her prayers and preparations. But then Kingston didn't come to collect her. She was all ready to die, and he didn't turn up at her door. Now, he'd been ordered by Cromwell to postpone Anne's execution because Cromwell wanted to clear the Tower of all foreigners. He didn't want them witnessing Anne's execution and, writing accounts of it. He wanted them all gone, and it was going to take Kingston perhaps a day to get rid of them. So Anne Boleyn's execution was to be postponed. Now, Anne sent for Kingston because he obviously didn't turn up to escort her to the scaffold. She told him that she thought to be dead by this time and past my pain. But Kingston didn't tell her of the postponement of her execution. But he did try to comfort the worried Anne. He tried to comfort her by telling her that the blow from the sword would be so subtle. Those are the words he used. Anne replied, "I heard say the executioner was very good, and I have a little neck." and she laughed as she put her hands around her throat. Now, Kingston was very shocked by this behaviour, and he reported this in his daily report to Cromwell, saying that this lady has much joy and pleasure in death. Perhaps Anne was at this point perhaps a little bit hysterical. I don't know, or perhaps it was just some black humour. I don't know. But she also joked with the ladies that were attending her, saying that she had become known, by later generations, by history, as La Royne Anne sans tête, or Queen Anne Lackhead, the Queen Anne with the head missing. So she showed some humour, or some black humour, some hysteria during those last hours. When her execution still hadn't happened by noon, Kingston then did inform her that her execution had been postponed until the following day. And I can't imagine how Anne must have felt at that point, having spent the whole night preparing herself for her death and then being told that actually it wasn't going to happen that next day. It wasn't going to happen that day, it was going to happen the next day. I mean, it's bad enough when you're just waiting for an appointment or an exam, a dentist appointment for me, or an exam, and then that gets postponed and you have to wait all over again. I mean, I just can't get my head around how it must feel to have your death postponed. Eustace Chapuis, the Imperial Ambassador, recorded what he'd heard of Anne's reaction to this news. He wrote that Anne appeared very sorry, praying the captain of the Tower that for the honour of God he would beg the king that since she was in good state and disposed for death, she might be dispatched immediately. But there was nothing that Kingston could do. But poor Anne, I just can't imagine what she went through. Also on this day in 1536, something very odd happened, or did it? Could it just be a story? Probably. According to a Frenchman writing to Thomas Cromwell, the wax tapers that had been placed about Queen Catherine of Aragon's tomb in Peterborough Abbey suddenly lit themselves, he said, had been lighted of their own accord. And, he kind of, I suppose this was, oh look, her successor, Anne Boleyn, the person that, might be seen as someone as usurping her place, is going to die. And so Queen Catherine's, these candles, these tapers suddenly light themselves. Cue the Twilight theme, really. It's a bit odd, and I think we have to take that story with a huge pinch of salt. So poor Anne, preparing for her death on a day that her death just didn't happen, having to wait another 24 hours. Thank you for joining me today. I'll be back tomorrow. You can subscribe to this YouTube channel by just clicking there. You can hit the bell to be notified, because although I may be coming to an end with this series on the Fall of Anne Boleyn, I am doing my On This Day in Tudor History videos every day, and I'm doing regular questions about Anne Boleyn videos too. Anyway, I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.